Yo, gearheads, what's up? Today, we're diving into 5 forgotten muscle cars that deserve a damn statue. Screw the overhyped Mustangs and Chargers. These beasts, the AMC Javelin AMX, Buick GSX 455 Stage 1, Mercury Cyclone Spoiler 2, Plymouth GTX, and Oldsmobile 442W30, were legends of the 60s and 70s, and it's time they get their props. Smash that like, hit subscribe, and let's rip into it. Let's kick things off with the AMC Javelin AMX, a straight-up rebel that shook up the muscle car scene. American Motors Corporation, or AMC, was the scrappy underdog in Detroit, battling giants like GM and Ford with a shoestring budget. In 1968, they dropped the AMX like a thunderbolt, and man, it was a game-changer. This wasn't just another pony car, it was a two-seater, a rare breed built to take on the Corvette head-on. From 68 to 70, the AMX was its own model, not a trim, and it came with a range of V8s. The base 343 cubic inch V8 was solid, pumping out 280 horsepower, but the 390 cubic inch V8 was the real deal, cranking out 340 horses and 430 pound-feet of torque, enough to make your heart race. The Go package turned it into a street monster with a 4-speed manual, ram air induction, heavy-duty suspension, and optional side pipes that made it sound like a rolling thunderstorm. Weighing just around 3,000 pounds, the AMX was light and nimble, running the quarter-mile in the mid-14 stock and carving corners like a European sports car. Its design was pure 60s swagger, long hood, curvy lines, and taillights that looked like they were ripped from a sci-fi movie. AMC took it racing in the SCCA Trans Am series, where it held its own against Mustangs, Camaros, and even Firebirds, often surprising the big dogs with its agility. Fun fact, only 19,134 AMXs were built from 68 to 70, with just 2,287 getting the 390 V8 in 1970, making it rarer than a vinyl record in a Spotify world. Why is it forgotten? AMC's marketing was basically a guy with a megaphone compared to GM's Ad Blitz, and when the AMX became a Javelin trim in 71, it lost some of its rebel edge. Pop culture nod, the AMX starred in Tulane Blacktop, a cult classic that cemented its badass status. Collectors today drool over these, with clean examples fetching over $50,000 at auctions. If you spot an AMX at a car show, give it a fist bump. This unicorn deserves its crown. Next up, the Buick GSX 455 Stage 1, the ultimate sleeper that shocked the muscle car world in 1970. Buick was known for cushy land yachts your grandpa would cruise to the golf course, so when they unleashed the GSX, it was like your quiet uncle showing up to a family reunion with a flamethrower. The heart of this beast was a monstrous 455 cubic inch V8, officially rated at 360 horsepower, but probably closer to 400 in real-world grunt. The torque? A pavement-cracking 510 pound-feet, one of the highest numbers ever for a production muscle car, more than a Dodge Viper in its day. The Stage 1 package took it to another level with high-performance heads, a hotter cam, and a 4-barrel carb that turned this Buick into a drag strip assassin. Stock, it could rip through the quarter-mile in the low 13ths, and with a tune-up, it was kissing the 12s, giving Pontiac's GTO Judge and Chevy Chevelle SS a run for their money. The GSX's look was pure fire, Apollo white or Saturn yellow paint, black racing stripes, a functional hood scoop, and a rear spoiler that made it look like it was ready to take flight. Only 400 GSXs were built in 1970, with just 124 getting the Stage 1 package, so finding one today is like spotting Bigfoot riding a unicorn. Buick called it the boss of the street, and they weren't kidding. This thing could smoke a Dodge Charger R/T or a Ford Torino Cobra without breaking a sweat. Compared to its GM sibling, the GTO, the GSX had more torque and a smoother ride, making it a street king with a velvet glove. Fun fact, Hot Rod magazine tested a GSX Stage 1 in 1970 and called it a luxury liner with the heart of a dragster. Why is it overlooked? Buick's grandpa car, rep didn't vibe with the muscle car crowd, and the GSX got drowned out by flashier names. Pop culture moment. The GSX popped up in car shows and drag racing events where it earned a cult following among gearheads. Today, a pristine GSX Stage 1 can fetch over $100,000 at auction, a testament to its rarity and power. If you're into raw, unfiltered American muscle with a side of stealth, the GSX 455 Stage 1 is your dream ride. Bow down to the king of sleepers. Now let's talk about the Mercury Cyclone Spoiler 2, a car that was born to dominate NASCAR but ended up as one of the rarest muscle cars in history. In 1969, Mercury saw Dodge's Charger Daytona and Plymouth Superbird owning the racetracks with their wild aero designs and said, "We're not sitting this one out." The Cyclone Spoiler 2 was their answer, a street-legal homologation special built to qualify for NASCAR's Aero Wars. This thing was all about aerodynamics, with a sleek, pointed nose, flush grille, and a low profile that made it cut through the air like a fighter jet. The standard engine was a 351 cubic inch Windsor V8 with 290 horsepower, solid for cruising, but not earth-shattering. The real magic happened when you checked the box for the 429 Cobra Jet V8, a beast cranking out 370 horsepower and over 450 pound-feet of torque, enough to make the pavement tremble. On the track, the Spoiler 2 was a weapon, helping drivers like Cale Yarborough and Dan Gurney rack up wins in NASCAR's high-speed battles. On the street, it was a unicorn. Mercury built just 519 units to meet homologation rules, with only a handful getting the Cobra Jet. Compared to the Daytona's massive wing, the Spoiler 2's subtle aero styling didn't scream muscle car to everyone, and Mercury's smaller fanbase meant it never got the hype of its Mopar rivals. Fun fact, the Spoiler 2's aero nose was so advanced that it influenced modern car designs decades later, with wind tunnel testing showing it was slipperier than most of its peers. Why is it forgotten? Its niche purpose and low production numbers made it a footnote in muscle car history, but this car was a purpose-built rocket that deserves a spot in the Hall of Fame. Pop culture nod. The Spoiler 2 appeared in NASCAR highlight reels, where its sleek shape made it a fan favorite among racing purists. Today, a Cobra Jet-equipped Spoiler 2 can go for over $150,000 at auction, if you can even find one. If you spot one in a wild, you're looking at a piece of racing history rarer than a diamond in a coal mine. Give it a salute for its track-dominating legacy. Next, let's roll with the Plymouth GTX, the muscle car that brought a tuxedo to the burnout party. Launched in 1967, the GTX was Plymouth's way of saying, we can do raw power and class at the same time. Think of it as the Roadrunner's sophisticated older brother, with all the grunt but a side of luxury. The standard engine was a 440 cubic inch Super Commando V8, dishing out 375 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque, enough to make the rear tires beg for mercy. But if you wanted to go full savage, you could opt for the 426 Hemi V8, a fire-breathing legend conservatively rated at 425 horsepower, but probably closer to 500 in real-world grunt. The Hemi GTX could blast through the quarter-mile in the mid-13ths, making it a stoplight king that could embarrass a Pontiac GTO Judge or a Ford Mustang Mach 1. The GTX design was pure Mopar muscle, long hood, aggressive stance, chrome trim, and those iconic tail stripes that screamed attitude. Inside, you got plush seats, optional air conditioning, and a dashboard that felt more like a luxury cruiser than a drag strip warrior. The GTX ran strong through 1971, but stricter emissions laws and skyrocketing insurance costs for high-performance cars killed it off. Fun fact, the GTX was a favorite among Mopar enthusiasts for its gentleman's muscle car vibe, often featured in drag racing events where it held its own against the best. Compared to the Plymouth Barracuda, the GTX offered more refinement but no less aggression, making it a versatile beast. Pop culture moment. The GTX appeared in shows like the Dukes of Hazzard as a stand-in for raw American power, and it was a staple at car shows where Mopar fans worshipped its style. Why is it overlooked? It got overshadowed by Plymouth's flashier models like the Barracuda and Cuda, not to mention Dodge's Charger. Today, a Hemi GTX can fetch over $120,000 at auction, a testament to its enduring appeal. If you want a muscle car that can cruise to a fancy dinner and still smoke a Chevelle on the way home, the GTX is your guy. It's time to give this refined beast the respect it deserves. Last but definitely not least, the Oldsmobile 442 W30, a car that proved Oldsmobile could throw down with the wildest muscle cars of the era. The 442 name stood for 4-barrel carb, 4-speed transmission, and dual exhaust, but the W30 package turned it into a fire-breathing dragon. In 1970, the W30's 455 cubic inch V8 churned out 370 horsepower and a colossal 500 pound-feet of torque. With a ram air intake, high-performance cam, and a lightweight fiberglass hood with functional scoops, this thing was built to dominate. Stock, it could run the quarter-mile in the low 14ths, but with a little tuning, it was dipping into the 13ths, giving cars like the Chevelle SS 454 and Dodge Charger our /TA run for their money. The 442W30's design was clean but menacing, subtle chrome, a low stance, and those red inner fenders that scream performance. Oldsmobile slapped a W Machine badge on it, just to make sure everyone knew this wasn't your mom's Cutlass. Fun fact, the W30's unique air cleaner ducts pulled cold air from under the bumper, boosting power in a way that made tuners drool. The 442 was a hit with gearheads, but Oldsmobile's sensible brand image meant it never got the hype of Pontiac's GTO or Chevy's Chevelle. Compared to those GM siblings, the 442W30 offered a perfect balance of power and poise, with a smoother ride, but no less aggression. Pop culture moment. The 442W30 was a favorite in drag racing circles, often featured in Carcraft magazine for its tunable power, and even popped up in movies like Demolition Man as a nod to its badassery. Why is it forgotten? Oldsmobile didn't have the same rebel rep as other brands, and the 442 got lost in the shadow of its flashier GM cousins. Today, a clean W30 can go for over $80,000 at auction, and collectors are starting to wake up to its legacy. If you're sleeping on the 442W30, it's time to wake up. This is one of the baddest muscle cars to ever roll out of Detroit. There you have it, folks. 5 forgotten muscle cars that deserve a hell of a lot more love than they get. The AMC Javelin AMX, Buick GSX 455 Stage 1, Mercury Cyclone Spoiler 2, Plymouth GTX, and Oldsmobile 442W30. These machines were the heart and soul of the muscle car era, each with its own story of power, style, and pure American grit. Which one's got your engine revving? Drop your favorite in the comments, and let's get the debate fired up. If you love this deep dive, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. Got other forgotten classics you want us to cover? Shout them out below. Until next time, keep the tires screaming and the engines roaring.